us that the challenge we face really relates to overstays, particularly with students, the students who we have been sending abroad. So students who go on government scholarship and also students who on their own apply to study in the United States of America. They have formally communicated to us that 21% is the default rate. 21% of students who have completed their courses have refused to return, according to US data. They have told us that the allowance, they will permit countries doing below 15%. But if you are doing above 15%, then you will be flagged for further action. That it is important to respect immigration laws of countries. It's important to respect the terms of your visa. And you must always acknowledge that your visa is for a specific purpose. If it's a tourist visa, make sure you are just going there as a tourist. Because even there, we are also not doing too well. We were told that some 7% of those receiving tourist visas are overstaying. So we need to watch that.
And now the technical committee in charge of the rollout of government's 24-hour policy has officially presented a policy document to the Speaker of Parliament ahead of its formal launch on Wednesday, July 2, 2025. Leader of the delegation, Augustus Tano, revealed that the policy is hinged on three thematic areas, include action, supply chain, and national assignment.
On Wednesday, the 2nd of July, His Excellency President Mahama will launch the 24-hour program and accelerated export development.
The program is made up of three anchors: production transformation, supply chain and market efficiency, and human capital development. And those anchors are supported by 8 sub-programs. Grow 24, which is the agricultural component. Make 24, which is a manufacturing component. Connect 24, which is a supply chain component. Aspire 24, which is a mindset change, the resetting of the Ghanaian, equipping the Ghanaian worker, Ghanaian bureaucracy with a strong and powerful attitude to productivity and to work. Because without that, we cannot achieve the design of reset. That is the ambition of all of us as a country. And Show Ghana is about the rich, diverse culture that we as a country possess, and which identifies us as who we are, and also establishes our historical legacy, and the importance of that legacy to our diaspora, and also in terms of the varied and most powerful cultural forms, both literary, both in terms of dance, in terms of food.
Need everybody on board. Once we start categorizing this matter, either on partisan or religious or ethnic or whatever basis, then we haven't got it. We have to make it a national program. One of the things I've proposed is the fact that after the launch, it might be presented to the people's representatives to give the official stamp of approving it, which meant that we have to have the opportunity to debate it and approve. Then we get the buy-in of all the organs of government.
Also, I must add that I'm also excited to the fact that the 24-hour economy hasn't just been a campaign promise, but also being implemented. And I believe this is a new dawn for the nation. As leaders, Speaker rightly said, we are not going to be politicizing this. It's going to be a collaborative effort, because it's going to be beneficial to the entire nation. especially for the younger generation. And one thing that I was excited about is the Show Ghana policy, which is to export things that are local to us. I was hoping to hear that language would be something that we'll be looking to export as well, because we've seen other countries do it. So then, as I said earlier on, we are all going to work.
Well, away from Parliament, the High Court has said July 3 to rule on a motion by lawyers of the embattled former Director of National Signals Bureau, Kabir Dubahin, regarding the disclosure of all National Security Coordinators' operational accounts. And Kabir Dubahin, his wife Angela Ejay-Boateng, and 2 others have been charged for allegedly stealing over 49 million Ghana cedis from the state. My colleague Lodi Dwasari reports.
Lawyers of Kabir Dubahin, led by Samuel Atachian on Thursday, June 26, indicated to the court that they had filed a motion for further disclosures on June 23 and prayed the court to move same since they had already served the Attorney General's office. In the motion filed by the defense lawyers, they are requesting for the details of the National Security Coordinator's operational accounts from 1992 to date, which entails the tenures of 5 presidents, including former President Jerry John Rawlings and former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Samuel Atachian argued that the AG had disclosed matters that border on national security to advance their case and had left out some details, hence their motion. But Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Remsai, leading the prosecution, opposed the motion, citing irrelevance to the case against the former National Signals Bureau Director. He argued that the case against Kabir Dubahin, Angela Ejay-Boateng, Mildred Donko and the company bordered on the allegation that they had moved funds from a particular government account into a private company which they had incorporated within a particular period. He added that the defense lawyers declined the opportunity when they were asked to file their disclosures and urged the court to dismiss the motion. Justice Eugene Nyaju-Nantey then adjourned the proceedings to July 3 to rule on the motion filed by the lawyers of Kabir Dubahin. Samuel Atachian spoke after the proceedings.
We have filed processes that these processes are exculpatory of us. And the law says that whatever the evidence, the Attorney General should bring it to bear on the proceedings. The Attorney General is fighting of evidence which will aid fair trial. I was sorely disappointed. But we leave it to the judge to look at the processes we filed. The fact that the Attorney General didn't file an affidavit in opposition, the fact that the Attorney General has not even read the motion and still wanted to go on.
He did also say that Dubahin had not declared his assets. What are your comments on that?
It's up to him. It's up to him to go on that route. He said it before, but we don't want to comment on it. It's up to him. Whether he believes that the life of Dubahin from the time he was born to now is what is on trial, we'll see.
Kabir Dubahin, Angela Ejay-Boateng, Mildred Donko and Advantage Solutions Limited are facing 11 counts of conspiracy to commit crime, stealing, using public office for profit, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. They have all pleaded not guilty and are on bail. Lodi Dwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
And now the European Union, EU, and the International Water Management Institute says northern Ghana has been significantly affected by climate change, with the agricultural sector bearing their brand. This declaration follows the conclusion of a 6-year research initiative led by the EU aimed at introducing a modernized agricultural system that promotes a climate-resilient future.
With an investment of 183 million euros into the program in Ghana, the EU has reaffirmed its commitment to agricultural development, particularly in the country's northern regions. The program also seeks to drive integrated impact and foster social transformation, equipping policymakers with tools to make data-informed decisions for long-term development. Head of cooperation at the EU delegation to Ghana, Massimo Mina, emphasized that the initiative aims to catalyze social change both nationally and globally.
The European Union is investing more than 180 million euros in the sector of agriculture. And there are other components which are actually still ongoing or just starting, notably in the field of irrigation. And we know how important and crucial is the irrigation, in particular in the north of the country. And at the same time, we're also working in preparing new actions for the future, notably looking at the landscape management, which is a very important aspect of our cooperation, and also some specific value chains, including not only the cocoa, where we've been heavily involved, but also the cashew.
Deputy Country Representative of International Water Management Institute, Dr. Charity Osei Amponsa, echoed this vision, noting that the EU-Ghana Agricultural Program was designed to promote inclusive, sustainable economic growth.
If we understand the way society transforms, then when we are making our development plans, we have that in mind. If we know that in the next 10 years, almost every household will be having a mobile phone, and therefore they can easily access extension services, then we have that at the back of our mind as we plan, and we make interventions that will inform what is changing on the ground. If we have mobile phones, we might not have to do the farmer-to-farmer kind of extension, but we could use mobile apps, for example, or maybe voice notes to send to, even if it is a yam farm, the farmers can hear in their language and they can quickly know what to do with the type of problems that they are having.
Over the project's duration, the research produced a range of practical tools, including an interactive gender and climate vulnerability hotspot map that covers all 261 districts in Ghana.
Well, in more news this morning, the ambassador of Israel to Ghana, Roy Gillard, says his country is interested in pursuing peace in the Middle East, but will not tolerate any oppressive regime seeking to destabilize the region. In an exclusive interview with TV3's Christian Yale, he described the current regime of Iran as one that is not interested in economic growth for its people. He has also asked Hamas to release Israeli hostages.
What is your position clearly on the ongoing conflict between your country, Israel, and Iran?
Let's put it this way. Regime change was not one of the aims, was not one of the targets of the campaign. The military campaign that we saw in the last 12 days was there to put an end to the Iranian destructive capabilities, to try to bring an end to Israel, either the nuclear capability or the ballistic missile capability, also the proxies. We believe we managed to cut those three arms, if you wish, the nuclear, ballistic, and the proxies. This regime that took over in 1979 is an oppressive one. I think the people in Iran has the right to ask themselves very serious questions. The 90 million people who lives in Iran, a state that is leaning on so much energy resources, one of the biggest oil resources in the world, was investing all the welfare of the money in developing nuclear industry, in developing ballistic industry, in financing proxies that were so far from Iran. And obviously now it's quite clear that all this money was wasted.
What is the interest of Israel in all of this? And what is your target, should I ask you?
Israeli interest is that there will be peace, stability, and prosperity in the Middle East. Iran was working to destabilize the Middle East because of religious reasons, because of political reasons, because of many reasons. Since 1979, since they took over Iran, they were working day in and day out to destabilize the Middle East. Can really send a strong lesson to the Iranians that they need to concentrate in their own business, not to mess around anymore in the Middle East.
People are dying indeed, and these are some of the things that are, driving conversation. Are you ready for a ceasefire deal to end everything for once? You say your interest is peace. Do you really want to pursue peace at this point?
We are engaged in two different campaigns. With the Iranians, I hope that this ceasefire will last for long. But we do not believe that we can live next to a poisonous snake, if you wish, which is the Hamas, next to us. They took us by surprise on the 7th of October 23. We lost 1,200 people. Since then, we lost another 800 soldiers in the war. It is either us or them, and it's going to be us. They will have to lay down the weapon. The leadership will need to leave Gaza and let the people of Gaza who would like to live next to Israel and not instead of Israel to keep on controlling Gaza.
And that was my colleague there, Christian Yale, with the Israeli ambassador to Ghana, Roy Gillard. You can get updates of this when you go onto our website. It's TV3NewDay.com. Away from that, sexual harassment and bullying at sea are dampening the morale of many seafarers and threatening the appeal of carriers in the marine sector. As part of activities to mark the International Day of the Seafarer, stakeholders in Ghana are intensifying efforts to sanitize the marine industry.
The International Day of the Seafarer is commemorated each year to spotlight the challenges confronting crew members, especially the rising cases of harassment at sea. Among the most common abuses reported are bullying and sexual assault, often perpetrated by superiors on board vessels. To address these concerns, the Ghana Maritime Authority marked the day with renewed calls for affected seafarers to seek redress through the International Transport Workers Federation, ITF. A new campaign dubbed My Harassment Free Ship was launched to encourage a culture of respect and uphold zero tolerance for any form of abuse in the maritime space. A panel of experts and industry players was convened to deliberate on the issue and propose actionable solutions. Director of Human Resources at the Ministry of Transport, Nathaniel Wilson, underscored the importance of upholding the dignity of every seafarer.
Seafarers are prone to health hazards due to the nature of onboard work, change in climatic conditions, type of cargo carried, working hours, materials being handled, epidemic, and diseases, among other risk factors. To add harassment, discrimination, and fear into this equation is therefore to strip away the dignity and safety that every human being deserves.
Acting Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Naval Captain Retired Dr. Kamal Ali, emphasized that harassment in the maritime industry is no longer acceptable.
As Director of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Acting Director, I stand here today with a renewed sense of purpose and deep commitment to ensuring that Ghana's flag vessels and our seafarers, both at home and abroad, are protected from any form of harassment, be it sexual, verbal, psychological, or physical.
Chief Engineer Teddy Mensah, a lecturer at the Regional Maritime University, also shared insights on behalf of seafarers, calling for accountability and better support systems at sea.
Harassment in any form is not to be condoned. I would also encourage the recruitment agencies to take reports of such harassments seriously, to follow them up with the shipping companies. We can do our bit to keep harassment out of this noble profession.
Well, you're still watching the Morning News, the first bulletin of the day on TV3. And the Minister of Education, pardon me, the Minister of Education, Harry Naijisu, is calling for greater investment in science, engineering, and mathematics. Speaking at the inauguration of the Governing Council of Sunyani Technical University, the minister said strengthening these fields is the key to dividing national development and giving the youth a competitive edge in today's job market. Take a listen to the minister.
Engineering is deemed extremely relevant in our quest for technological advancement as a country. Sitting here personally, I have no fear of contradiction that the future of our country hinges on training young people more in the area of science, mathematics, and engineering. That is what it should be, and you are really positioned to do that. My understanding is that you are one and among few institutions that have respected the regulatory and accreditation directives of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. So keep it up in terms of your respect to the rules and regulations. I hear you are among the few standing very high there. I'm also aware of your request to expand, particularly looking at the new niche area of pre-engineering. I would therefore invite the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission to work with you to see how we get that done for Sunyani Polytechnic.
And now the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has once again issued a firm ultimatum to government to either implement their conditions of service by the end of July or face possible industrial action. And the renewed notice follows what the association describes as a unilateral suspension of a scheduled meeting involving government representatives, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, and the association itself. President of the association, Perpetual Foriampofo, addressed the media at a press conference in Accra.
The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association suspended its strike on the 13th of June 2025 after the intervention by the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health. Another meeting was scheduled to take place on the 26th of June 2025, but was rescheduled because some of the stakeholders were not within the jurisdiction. This compelled the Parliamentary Select Committee to officially submit a letter of postponement of the meeting to the leadership of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. However, the leadership of the GNMA has expressed disappointment over the postponement of the meeting without prior notification. At a news conference, President of the Association, Perpetual Foriampofo, says the undesired outcomes marks of bad faith.
The rescheduling of the meeting, in our view, is in bad faith, since it may further delay the implementation of the agreed items. We have, however, decided to give the committee the benefit of hindsight and still trust that their engagement with the Ministries of Health and Finance will be productive.
She urged government to immediately ensure the fuel and uniform allowance, book and research allowance, and 8% non-basic allowance are fulfilled.
Demand implementation of the 4 agreed items not later than July 2025. This is non-negotiable, and we shall advise ourselves if any attempt is made to further delay the implementation.
The GNMA maintains that failure to honor its long-standing demands by July 2025 could lead to further action.
We demand that these timelines are clearly captured and signed off at the 10th July 2025 meeting to avoid any ambiguity in the implementation schedule. For the union makes us strong.
Perpetual Foriampofo is the president of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, and there's more updates on this very intended strike when you visit our website, it's 3news.com. But that's how we end the morning news. For more news updates, you'd want to log on to our website, it's 3news.com. Let me leave you with this. In a world where you can be anything, just be kind. It costs nothing to be kind. Thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure coming your way. Good morning.